Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning. We have a lot of updates, whether it's national, statewide. We're going to get to those in just a little bit. I do have, because I think a lot of people are resting on the fact they think that the quote-unquote woke culture is dead. I've got some examples of don't get too excited that it's gone in the dustbin, because it seems to me as if we're starting to see woke rise again from the ashes. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Steve. Question. What does it actually take to keep a criminal behind bars now? 2019, they removed 121 crimes, placed them in bail reform. Criminals have rights. Citizens can't even defend themselves any longer. Those that can have left this plagued state of deficiency. When all that becomes left is a criminal environment that can no longer be held accountable for their actions. The elites are getting exactly what they're striving for: chaos that eventually convinces citizens that government involvement needs to be invoked. Yet each location the National Guard has been sent, crime rates have plummeted. Being called fascist under the correct authority, it could be a positive implementation. Under the direction Democrats run cities and states, it will become socialist, Marxist, and communist run states of emergency. Eventually, when it happens to you, you'll lose your First, Second, and Fourth Amendment rights. You have no one to blame but yourself. Thank you, Steve, for that question of the day. All right, let's take a couple quick looks, and we're just going to move along quickly on this about kind of this woke culture. When I first read this, I had to double check to make sure one outlet didn't get duped by a fake study. According to new experts, parents are encouraged to request an infant's consent before changing their diaper. Now you're saying, Frank, this has to be made up. It is not. Researchers from Deakin University, which I think was in Australia, yes, they said at the start of a nappy change, ensure your child knows what is happening. Get down to their level and say you need a nappy change, and then pause so they can take this in. I don't want to get too much into the weeds on this. Then you can say, do you want to walk or crawl with me to the changing table? Or would you like me to carry you? Observe their facial expressions and body language to check if they understand what is happening. This can be a time to help children learn about consent and how their bodies work. Well, that seems like not just outrageous. What's wrong? Oh, we got to... oh. That's interesting. Thank you for the person who sent in having troubles on Spectrum. I appreciate that. I will send word that there is an issue with Spectrum. Thank you. But going back to what I was saying, I'll unfortunately have to wait till the next break to do that. If anybody else is having trouble, please let me know. Or if you're not having trouble and you're on Spectrum. So think of the time-consuming nature of this, having a heart-to-heart every time you have to change a baby's diaper, but it is the only positive way. The softie strategy is popular with Gen Zers and millennials, mothers and fathers under the age of 46. However, it's been widely bashed by online critics who claim the overindulgent, unconventional parenting style turns untamed children into knee-high hellions. The new research additionally recommends inviting babies to participate in the grooming ritual, asking them questions like, can you please lift up your bottom so I can slide your diaper out? These habits plant the seed of the idea that a child has the right to say what happens to their body. There you are. Just when you thought woke culture may have been a thing of the past, but we continue. A Michigan education official is under fire after her response to a Republican state representative asking her how many genders there are has now went viral. Michigan Chief Deputy Superintendent Dr. Sue Carnell found herself between a rock and a hard place when Republican Representative Jay DeBoyer pointedly asked her how many genders exist. DeBoyer saying, "How many genders are there?" When she didn't answer, he pressed her again. Carnell's response, different people have different beliefs on that. Well, DeBoyer said, you can believe what you want, but science says there's two. This video has now went viral because she would not confirm an answer, would not answer. Unreal. Michigan State Superintendent Sue Carnell doesn't know how many genders there are. Watch as she draws a complete blank when refusing to answer when asked this simple question. This is a person responsible for Michigan kids' education. She is caught in the grips of an institutionalized mania. These are just some comments on Twitter. 3/4 of Michigan kids can't read at grade level. When you realize these are the people in charge of education in Michigan, that number starts to make a lot more sense. There you are. Oh, and we continue. Remember, this is a retired professor, but nonetheless has had their whole life in academia, surrounded by yes men and women. Their students are never being challenged because they are the final say. A retired professor was seen on camera calling conservatives Nazis after a proposed Turning Point USA chapter was approved at a Colorado college. David Kozak, a former professor of anthropology at Fort Lewis College, was caught on camera yelling in reaction to the Associated Students of Fort Lewis College voting to approve the TPUSA chapter. It was done in an emergency meeting. Their decision came after previously rejecting senior Jonah Flynn's proposal to register the group with the university. They reversed the earlier rejection, and when doing so, the retired professor flipped off the person and called the TPUSA supporters Nazis. And then he said blanking Nazis. Go on, fascists. Go on, Nazi lovers. Kozak, again, a retired professor, David Kozak. His confrontation occurred after a challenging few weeks for the TPUSA chapter at the Liberal Arts College, which is based in a left-leaning area that overwhelmingly supported Kamala Harris in the last election. But this is a grown-up, one of the grown-ups in the room, throwing a temper tantrum. Because what else have they ever known? They've only ever gotten their way. This man, I don't know, looks to be in his 70s, has only ever got his way. Being surrounded by the students that have to adhere to his every word, living in that academic bubble. So to be challenged or something that makes him feel uncomfortable, which is a different point of view, leads him to call everyone a fascist or a Nazi. Now, Fort Lewis College spokesperson said Mr. Kozak retired from Fort Lewis College in 2022 and is no longer employed by the institution. At Fort Lewis College, we remain committed to fostering an environment grounded in academic excellence, free expression, and civil discourse. And just because there was your woke updates this morning, let's bring a more positive story coming from Turning Point USA. This is amazing. A memorial in Jerusalem was held for slaying conservative activist Charlie Kirk. It became a declaration of purpose as hundreds of Israelis and American visitors vowed to continue the work he began. The press service of Israel reported that roughly 300 people, including Israeli officials, clergy, and U.S. Christians, gathered on Sunday to honor Charlie Kirk. Many said the event felt less like a memorial and more like a mandate. Pastor Rob McCoy, one of Kirk's closest confidants, described him in comments as faithful, humble, a wonderful husband and father, and revealed a personal discipline, a weekly Sabbath rest. He found unbelievable freedom in turning everything off. From Friday night to Saturday night, no one could reach him. That rhythm grounded him. McCoy also said Kirk saw politics as a way to strengthen society, not a route or a route to power. He saw politics as an on-ramp to increased humanity. If he could get young people rowing in the streams of liberty, he believed they would eventually reach its source. Tammy Martin of California spoke, saying, I never met Charlie personally, but when he was killed, it felt like losing someone I knew. She credited him with helping Christians understand the importance of supporting Israel. Some people you only see through a screen, but the truth they speak goes straight through. Charlie was one of those people. He knew how to speak to young people in a way no one else could. He helped them push back against indoctrination and see Israel and America with real clarity. Israel Minister of Diaspora Affairs praised Kirk's discipline, saying Charlie embodied the deeper meaning of freedom, responsibility, clarity, discipline. His death is a tremendous loss, not only to his family, but to the conservative movement worldwide, and to all those who saw him as a defender of truth. I thought that was nice, a touching tribute to Charlie Kirk in Jerusalem. By the way, and we got an update on Israel here in a moment. I don't think we'll have time to get to all of this. But there is an amazing piece by Miranda Devine that has taken a look, kind of a fresh look, into the investigation of Thomas Crooks. Thomas Crooks was the attempted assassin of President Trump. He tried. They say that the FBI bungled that probe horribly. That's her contention. We'll talk about it just quickly because it's more, I won't be able to do it justice with the time that we have here, so I'd highly recommend that you go to the New York Post and find the piece for yourself because it is such an important issue. Then we're going to get to some things that Donald Trump has said and some Epstein things. We're also going to talk about New York State politics. There's quite a few things here about Governor Hochul. Now, we have all this time together, you and I. This is nice. I blocked off today to catch up on some things. Now, tomorrow we'll have Corning's mayor-elect, Pam Walker. She'll be joining us on tomorrow's broadcast. Also, just quickly, mark your calendar. Tomorrow is the Red Kettle Kickoff between noon and 2 right here on Market Street in Corning. That's right in Centerway. We're going to have a nice little celebration. I will be getting you the date for the telethon for the Salvation Army because we're going to have another big fundraising year. We had a record-breaking year last year, and we have to do even more this year. So I'm going to need you to be a part of it, and we'll get that info to you shortly. All right, let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
I'm Marion Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Hi, this is Till, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Nearly 5 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined up here at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
It's 10 p.m. somewhere. Do you know what your kids are doing online? Brought to you by Ferrario Jeep.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Because even one attack is one too many.
After work, reduce your stroke risk. The initial treatment for AFib is often to stabilize your heart rate, but controlling your heart's rhythm may be just as important for long-term health. Ask your doctor how to get in rhythm and stay in rhythm.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. Mark tells us to save your pennies. Some could be worth a lot. Well, thank you, Mark. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. I wish that my mother got my consent before she whooped my tail. But I guess that her efforts kept me from being a Democrat. Good point. That's where you really need the consent. If you're just tuning in, there's kind of a woke study by Australian researchers that say that parents should ask their infants' consent before changing their diapers. And no, that is not a made-up story. That is a real quote-unquote study. Okay, big breaking news. Yesterday, the UN Security Council approves the United States-backed plan for Gaza. The 15-member council voted 13-0 in favor of the resolution. Russia and China abstained, but they did decline to use their veto power to block the measure. The resolution was intended to add international legitimacy to U.S. President Donald Trump's 20-point Gaza plan, parts of which form the basis of the ceasefire that took effect in Gaza Strip last month. The United States has lobbied hard for its passage, which was praised by Trump in a lengthy post on social media. Trump wrote, "Congratulations to the world on the incredible vote of the United Nations Security Council. Just moments ago, acknowledging and endorsing the Board of Peace, which will be chaired by me and include the most powerful and respected leaders throughout the world." The resolution authorized elements of the plan, including the establishment of the Board of Peace as a transitional authority and the creation of a temporary international stabilization force in Gaza. Trump said Monday that the members of the board and many more exciting announcements will be made in the coming weeks. Now, there is a piece, again, we have a lot of lengthy pieces that I just can't get to this morning, but I want to highlight them for you. This is by Aviva Klompus, and Klompus writes, former speech writing director at the Israeli Museum to the United Nations, along the Israel-Gaza border, there's only one path to peace, and that is eliminating Hamas. Hamas cannot retain any foothold, and Israel cannot be expected to outsource its security to external actors. I thought that was it's a good piece. Okay, you can find that for yourself at Fox, I think it is. Okay. This is really interesting. And again, we don't have the time to get to all of this. It was by Miranda Devine, and she did, I guess you could call it an expose about how the FBI and the Secret Service butchered the Thomas Crooks case, which invited conspiracies, and that she demands to know the truth. The president himself, she says, remains unsatisfied with the answers he's been given about the circumstances leading to 20-year-old Thomas Crooks climbing on a rooftop with an AR-15 style rifle and firing 8 times at Trump, narrowly missing his head but hitting his ear. There is something very wrong with the official story, and that invites conspiracy theories. The president demanded answers months ago. A man was murdered. What is going on? Now, the Fox kind of, how would I say that, kind of recaps what Miranda Devine says, saying, why did the FBI either fail to track down major information about would-be Trump assassin Thomas Crooks or fail to make it public? Indeed, shouldn't the Bureau have been aware of Crooks' alarming, invisible social media profile long before he opened fire on President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania last year? The information Miranda Devine shared in that piece contradicts public claims by then FBI Director Chris Wray that Crooks was a mystery man with a thin or non-existent online presence. The methods Devine sources used, starting with Crooks' phone number to track down his accounts on YouTube, Snapchat, Venmo, Zelle, GroupMe, Discord, Google Play, Quizlet, Chess.com, and Quora, can't be alien to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. How could the feds miss the YouTube account Thomas Crooks 2178? Active from January 14th of 2019 to its suspension on July 14th, 2024, the day after Butler. Federal officials supposedly monitor social media for signs of danger. Did posts like the all caps "murder the Democrats" of December 12th, 2019 really set off no alarms? In fact, he got more spooky after he turned to the left, because originally they were very misleading in how they presented it. They wanted you to think that perhaps it was a Trump supporter, that Thomas Crooks was a Trump supporter. No, he did go far to the left. Writing in 2020, the only way to fight the government is with terrorism-style attacks, sneak a bomb into an essential building and set it off before anyone sees you, track down an important people, politician, military leaders, etc., and try to assassinate them. That is a quote from Thomas Crooks. None of this speech is grounds for arrest, but it's absolutely the kind of thing you expect to get someone into the Fed's radar, and certainly stuff that should be noted after the author has come a fraction of an inch from succeeding in an assassination. Crook's scarier posts were even flagged by other users who mentioned law enforcement in the replies. A fresh investigation is now a must. Probe Thomas Crooks, his back trail and possible co-conspirators, and of the FBI officials who one way or another dropped the ball, as well as of current FBI leaders who also fell down. All the previous weirdness from the Secret Service claim it posted no agents on the roof Crooks used because it was too steep, to raise bizarre testimony to Congress that Trump may not have been shot, has launched 1,000 conspiracy theories. The FBI's decline, dating back to at least Robert Mueller's reforms after 9/11, is old news. But Team Trump are supposed to be turning things around. The nation needs to know why that work is plainly going far too slowly. So Miranda Devine says that he had a massive digital footprint, even though we have been told differently. Crook's accounts range from, Google Play, and goes through some of them, some of the more sexualized sites that he went to. And so it's very bizarre, but we also saw that with Charlie Kirk's alleged killer, Tyler Robinson, who was also involved in the bizarre furry culture, which I'm not going to go into depth, but I also would recommend that you don't Google search it. Crooks allegedly used they-them pronouns on the platform. The columnist also sounded the alarm on Crooks appearing to flip 180 degrees in political ideology back in January of 2020. Quote, his online comments from he was very young, 15, 16, 17, show us about how he became increasingly violent and sort of radicalized against Democrats. He was pro-Trump. Something happened to make him more rabidly anti-Trump, and again, his rhetoric took more and more of a violent turn. He started brushing up against, was a neo-Nazi by the name, fake name probably, William Teppers, who started discouraging Crooks in encouraging Crooks in more and more violent rhetoric. And then suddenly something happened in August of 2020, and he just disappeared online. So again, there's a lot that we have learned from this. I would highly recommend the piece is called Miranda Devine, FBI Secret Service Butchered the Thomas Crooks Case and Invited Conspiracies. We deserve to know better. And it goes through all these things and what her sources found, what she found. It's really quite a timeline. I want to say it's probably about 20 pages here. Trump and those close to him are skeptical about the official story and question how the impoverished parents of Crooks, who had to ask for money from neighbors to pay for their son's funeral, could afford to hire a white shoe law firm, Quinn Logue, out of Pittsburgh. It is hard to believe the FBI and or Secret Service missed Crooks. The question is, what did they do about him? So raising more conspiracy theories because of their lack of information. I highly recommend you check that out online. Speaking of that violence, we know that there has been an uptick in left-wing violence. But not if you hear Representative Jasmine Crockett, rising star in the Democrat Party, someone we always look forward to quoting that awkward exchange she had when she lied about the Epstein files. But on CNN's The Lead, she said President Trump had caused a, quote, consistent spike in the violence when it comes to politics. Crockett said, quote, I believe that we all need to pay attention to Trump and how he acts. He is the cause of all the confusion and the destruction that we have seen in politics. As far as I'm concerned, because it used to be we could disagree, and that was that. I disagree with a lot of Republicans, but it does not necessarily turn violent. It does not necessarily turn violent? Okay. Ever since he's been introduced into politics, we have seen a consistent spike in the violence when it comes to politics. Now, I think we could say, well, where does that spike come from? It's not Trump's fault, but this is a prime example of blaming the victim. So this is how you know Marjorie Taylor Greene's getting so used. Crockett continues, so here's the deal with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I can appreciate what she says, but I'm going to have to see her actions. And the reality is that where was this type of mood when we saw what happened to Mr. Pelosi in his home, who's not even an elected official? But because somebody decided to go after Nancy Pelosi, where was this when we saw what the local elected leaders murdered there recently, the former Speaker of the House in Minnesota? Like, where was this, right? And so what is so frustrating for me with not only Marjorie, but MAGA as a whole, is they're in the find out phase. So that's what Marjorie Taylor Greene gets for saying we've got to stop the kind of the toxic politics, she gets criticized for not doing it soon enough. That's kind of the left in a nutshell. We've seen that with celebrities who didn't do enough to help Harris win or Biden win or whatever the case may be, being ostracized. Okay. Whew. That was a lot that I didn't mean to cover quite like in that order, but that's where we're at. We've got a lot of other breaking stories, a lot of questions to ask you as we continue with our broadcast. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
Do you want free internet? Forever? You got it. Really. We mean it. Spectrum is offering free fiber-powered internet forever. Want it? Just call this number and switch 4 mobile lines to Spectrum for a lifetime of internet you never pay for. It's not a trial, it's an unprecedented offer. So we'll say it again. Free fiber-powered internet forever. Have you called yet? Because your internet is forever. But this ad ends now.
I'll quit after this pack. I'll quit before I wake up coughing. I'll quit before my kid is born. I'll quit before I have serious problems.
Hey, you with me?
I wish I quit when I said I would.
You know you'll quit one day, so get tough with yourself. Do it now. Call 1-866-NY-QUITS.
In the past 50 years, we've made a lot of progress in smoking prevention. But if we don't do more, 1 out of every 13 children alive today will die early from smoking. That's 5.6 million precious lives we can save. Together, we can make the next generation tobacco-free.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well. I've been saying it for a long time on this program, and I continue to be vindicated in my original theory, my original prediction. According to NBC News, if Democrats regain the White House, Trump's ballroom could be an early casualty. The East Wing that President Trump tore down last month stood for decades. The ballroom he's building in his place could be gone not long after the first wave of guests sit down for dinner, depending on the outcome of the 2028 presidential race. Well, there's been some that demanded almost a litmus test. Eric Swalwell demanded a litmus test for Democrat candidates, that if they are going to run, they have to vow that they will tear down this ballroom. That is how petty, even though we know that behind the scenes, even people that don't like Trump have said this is a long time coming, that this has needed to be done for a long time. Does not matter. Out of this pettiness, of this Trump derangement syndrome, it needs to be destroyed. If elected, a Democrat president could have plenty to worry about aside from White House decor. War and peace can easily fill up a day, but a new president may face considerable pressure from within the Democrat fold to do something about a massive new ballroom forever linked to Trump. It's forever linked to Trump. There, they said it. They finally said it because it is linked to Trump that it needs to be destroyed. Already, prominent Democrat officials are workshopping ideas for repurposing the space in favor of something that's decidedly un-Trump. If any of these come to fruition, the $300 million ballroom that Trump birthed could take on a function that he never intended. Should the ballroom be used as the president plans? No way, says Jamie Raskins, who said he would consider a presidential bid if Democrats gain control of the House. Jamie Raskins is considering a presidential bid. Add that to the list. Ooh, that's a long shot. This is a space that's owned by the people and that serves the people. So it should be used opposite of what Trump has in mind, which is for the American aristocracy and plutocracy to gather. The sad thing is they know that this has been called for a long time. Ro Khanna of California, another Democrat viewed as a possible presidential candidate. Wow. Said the ballroom should be used in a way that celebrates and empowers forgotten Americans, as opposed to accommodating guests for glitzy state dinners. Letting the 90,000 square foot structure remain a ballroom would only validate the means by which Trump built it, demolishing the East Wing without forewarning and bankrolling the project with private donations. Oh my gosh, is that seen as a negative? At least one Democrat lawmaker wants the ballroom to meet its demise. Representative Steve Cohen says, I don't think it would be a bad idea to tear it down. Now, this is a time when they tried to lie to you, remember, about the ballroom. And they tried to mislead you to think that it was taxpayers funding it. So they're going to take this and just destroy it. Well, there'll be criticism of their waste of money. No, not from the media. He added, it's the gigantic blob there that's Donald Trump. Anita McBride, a member of the White House Historical Association, said, I hope it remains a ballroom, and I hope that it's tasteful and beautifully done so the future presidents will be proud to host honored guests there. But what I most hope is that the new building includes offices for the Office of the First Lady, White House Social Office, and White House Visitors Office. Those offices serve the presidency in a unique and special way, welcoming all visitors to the People's House. Past presidents also faced public backlash for transforming the White House. Harry Truman was ridiculed for putting up a balcony that overlooks the South Lawn. A newspaper cartoon in 1948 depicted Truman standing on the balcony named for him and shouting, "Love me, love my balcony." But no president has undertaken any exterior renovations on the ballroom scale, nor have many presidents proved as polarizing as Trump. So this is used as a way to attack Trump as well. What does Gavin Newsom have to say? Because we were told yesterday, get used to it. He is the front runner. Never mind that he let LA burn, never mind those wildfires, but he is the rising star in the Democrat Party. Gavin Newsom said, it's a metaphor for the administration. The recklessness to which he goes about things. The fact he doesn't believe in rules. He doesn't believe they apply to him. So, you know, he's a wrecking ball presidency. So, again, we don't need to go into this any further. But if Democrats regain the White House, Trump's ballroom could be an early casualty. It comes as no surprise they could not hold these important state dinners or these important gatherings and know that Trump built it. They could not stand that 50 years from now there could be a president holding a gala that is in the Trump building. I would not. Now, this is all dependent on a Democrat winning, and I think it's dependent on a Democrat winning right after Trump. I think if you go through, let's say, just mind game here, if you go through 4 years of J.D. Vance or 8 years of J.D. Vance and then maybe a Marco Rubio, something like that, I think by that time, if a Democrat gets in, there'll still be outrage, but it will be not as much outrage as this moment right now. But again, goes back to Eric Swalwell and others calling for the destruction. Keep that in mind, the destruction of the ballroom. Why? Not because it doesn't serve a useful function, just because they don't like Trump. Isn't that a little bit of what the right is dealing with the left? Now, when we come back, we're going to tell you about the $2,000 tariff checks potentially coming your way. Then we got a couple quick things about Trump, Epstein. We do got to get to New York issues. That'll probably be in the 7 o'clock hour. But luckily, I scheduled today with just you and me. So keep those comments coming in. You'll be my interview. How's that? Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
You lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
Hassel more than just your local local hot tub and swimming pool store, did you know Hesselson's carries Oakley, Costa, and Maui Jim sunglasses? Hesselson's also carries Luminox watches certified by the U.S. Navy SEALs. Hesselson's has the new all-in-one Metal Ridge wallets, easy to carry and easy to use. Hesselson's also carries card accessories, suspenders, leather belts, wallets, and dog toys. Hesselson's also has over 400 styles of men's and ladies' work and western boots and hikers. Stop in today and see why after 70 years it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Who are you?
Your lungs. We are proud of you for quitting smoking, but you still may be at risk for lung cancer.
A routine cancer scan can detect it early.
Learn more at savebythescan.org.
The tide isn't just a gentle ebb and flow. It's a mighty force of change. Just like the tide shapes our shorelines, we can shape our planet's future and protect the world's oceans from its biggest threats. Help us turn the tide. Join Oceania's wave of ocean advocates who are making a difference in the world.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Recording. Let's go to some viewer comments. Would the $2,000 be taxed? Well, hold on. I haven't even got to what we're learning about it. I don't know. But if I had to bet, yes. Comment from a different viewer. But will the Democrats use taxpayer money to tear down the ballroom? Absolutely. And the media would not call them out for their hypocrisy. Now, because remember, that same media has tried to omit the fact that it's being paid for by private donations. Then when they are finally forced to admit it, then they start saying, well, what do those people want in return? Or those companies want in return? So it's very interesting to me how much recently we've seen this kind of lies through omission, or this idea that they're just trying to dupe you. We've always seen it, but there's been a couple major stories lately that I think even worse than that normal. But let's talk about the $2,000 tariffs. Again, this is all being kind of figured out by the Trump administration. He vowed to issue tariff dividends sometime before the 2026 midterms. We're going to be issuing dividends later on, said the president, somewhere prior to the middle of next year, a little bit later than that, noting that it would include thousands of dollars for individuals of, this is important, moderate income. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent previously revealed that the proposed $2,000 tariff dividend checks for American citizens would be awarded, but noted that the idea was only in discussion. He said the payments could come in a lot of forms, including as just the tax decreases that we are seeing following cuts made in the big, beautiful bill. Around the same time, Trump wrote on Truth Social that a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. Bessent, if you recall, had said anybody making under $100,000, everything is on the table. That would be for working families. We will have an income limit, Bessent assured. Now, they have not elaborated it on any plans surrounding the dividends beyond the updated timeline. The remittance would require, this is very important, would require approval from Congress, where even the president's own Republican allies have expressed skepticism and encouraged Trump to focus on decreasing the federal budget deficit instead. Republican Senator Bernie Moreno of Ohio said it'll never pass. We have a $37 trillion debt. As of November, the debt had surpassed $38 trillion. So I wouldn't start putting it out on your tax forms quite yet to that viewer. It still is to be seen if we will receive it. Oh, yesterday, President Trump spoke with his beloved McDonald's. Trump addressed the fast food giant's Impact Summit in Washington, D.C. He said prices are coming down. I will tell you that nobody has done what we've done in terms of pricing. We took over a mess. We had the highest inflation in the history of our country, and now we have normal inflation. Now, inflation ticked up 3% in September over the past 12 months, the highest rate since the start of this year. The Economist's famed Big Mac's index, which tracks the average price of the Golden Arches iconic burger, shows the sandwich cost $6.01 in July, up from $5.69 a year ago. The surge in prices come as the cost of ground beef went up. We know about that. We've heard about that. Trump said on inflation, we have it down to a low level, but we're going to get it a little bit lower. We want perfection. The president described himself to the audience as one of your all-time most loyal customers and said he'd heard from CEO Chris Kempczinski that prices at McDonald's are coming down. Trump touted his investment in trade deals, arguing that the economy would have been a catastrophe and the country may have gone bankrupt if he had lost to Harris. You are so darn lucky that I won that election, he said. He also talked about his time serving fries in that historic, really iconic campaign stop, which really endeared him to some people that may not normally support him. He said it was not easy. He argued that McDonald's employees know the people of our country better than anyone. Before the sun rises, you're serving hot coffee to construction workers, nurses, and police officers on the way to the job. In the evening, you stand ready with the fast diner and the smile for busy moms and their children as they race from school to soccer practice. And late at night, our lights are on and the only one still glowing when the long-haul trucker pulls up for a good meal and the best Coca-Cola in America. He suggested that his go-to McDonald's item is the Filet-O-Fish. I like the fish. You could do a little bit more tartar sauce, he said. Okay. Now, Trump blasted a reporter yesterday who interrupted him during a press gaggle, saying that it appears that reporter worked for Bloomberg News, saying, "You are the worst." On Sunday night, Trump was in the middle of answering a question about Tucker Carlson's controversial interview with Nick Fuentes when a journalist cut in with another question. The president paused, briefly glanced upward, and then turned to the reporter with an irritated look. "Will you let me finish my statement? You are the worst. You're with Bloomberg, right? You are the worst. I don't know why they even have you." The identity of the reporter was not immediately clear. Bloomberg did not respond to a request for comment. In a tweet, CBS News White House reporter Jennifer Jacobs noted another recent face-off that took place aboard Air Force One. She wrote that Trump on Friday told a Bloomberg reporter, quote, "Quiet, quiet, piggy." That's after the journalist asked, why is there nothing incriminating? Why, if there's nothing incriminating in the files, is he acting like there is? And so the response from the president of the United States was, "Quiet, quiet, piggy." By the way, just if you're curious what he responded to, that Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes thing, I don't follow either, and that's not me trying to push off the issue. I just don't watch either of them. I don't know anything about Nick Fuentes, if I'm being honest. I know Tucker Carlson from his past decades in just about every network, cable news network. I'm not a big fan, but and I know the way I understand it is he's become very radicalized, but Trump said, "We've had some great interviews with Tucker Carlson, but you can't tell him who to interview. If he wants to interview Nick Fuentes, I don't know much about him, but if he wants to get the word out, people have to decide. Ultimately, people have to decide." All right, there you are. When we come back, here's the question posed by The Hill. Now, keep in mind, The Hill is hardly a conservative outlet. You could argue that it is a far left outlet. But The Hill has this question, and I'll pose it to you before we go to break. It's an opinion piece by, just to be fair, Douglas Schoen, the political consultant who served as an advisor to President Clinton and the 2020 presidential campaign of Michael Bloomberg. So we have a Democrat writing this question, posing, is this the end of Chuck Schumer? We'll talk about it when we come back. We do have a couple things on Epstein, a lot about New York State. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
This is a Sue the Collector consumer alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
Dear Savvy, who says you can't have it all? You've got the tech. You've got the drive. And now you've got Toyota value.
Grab Black Friday savings today. Lease Corolla for $179 a month or Camry for $289 a month. Now until December 1st. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
The Twins' first prime-time local news. Catch weather, local and national news, events, and more with our anchors, Dante, Haley, and Ann. Find out what's happening in your community and more by watching Big Fox 10 p.m. News on WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security. Wow, look, that's an interesting view this morning, isn't it? The orange and the gray sky, kind of eerie, a little eerie. But we thank Boss Security for bringing us that amazing view of Market Street in the heart of the Gafford District. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Comment from a viewer. Mark writes in, to me, our government is like a bunch of kids that can't agree on anything and can't get along, and they are more violent than ever. Thank you, Mark. So the question posed by Douglas Schoen, is this the end of Chuck Schumer? Democrats have generally been unable to agree on much over the past year, but they now seemingly agree on one thing. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer must go. Now, what this piece is doing, because Douglas Schoen is a Democrat, kind of pundit, if you will, this is starting the groundwork to say, hey, Chuck, you better make up your mind on something, because we're going to send the long knives after you. Indeed, it appears that Schumer's leadership position is increasingly untenable as he comes under fire from both moderates and his left flank. Democrats' commentary on the 5-term senator and 9-term representative underscores how precarious Schumer's position is. After 8 Democrats broke with their party to reopen the government, critiques of Schumer's leadership were many. They included the simple demand he must resign. He was also accused of trying to hurt the party. Schumer was also held up as another example of why we need new leadership, and that's just what Democrats in Congress had to say. Moreover, according to the Wall Street Journal, at least 11 House Democrats, 11 progressive nonprofits, and 6 Democrat Senate candidates have called on Mr. Schumer to step down as minority leader. Now, keep in mind, he could still run for another term, but they're already calling for AOC to primary him, if he will. So the long knives are out after Schumer. How does he save what legacy he believes he has? Schumer has managed to alienate virtually everyone in his party. Progressives blame him for not being strong enough to rein in the defectors, while moderates grouse that he engineered the longest shutdown ever for nothing, and it was for nothing. You had that 42 days or whatever it was, absolutely nothing accomplished except for pain and suffering to the American people done by Mr. Schumer and his party. At a time when voters of both parties, but particularly Democrats, are upset with the age of many in Washington, the ground under Schumer's feet appears shakier than at any point in his long career. And as we brought to you last week, he is not touring the state like he used to. He always hung his hat on the fact that he hit every county in New York State. This year, it does not look like he will reach that for the first time in his career. According to CNN, with his minus 4-point net favorability among Democrat voters, Schumer is the least popular Democratic Senate leader since polls began asking the question in 1985. The same poll suggests that if Schumer were up for election today, he would likely suffer a historic defeat in a primary against Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is rumored to be preparing a Senate run or maybe a White House run. Keep that in mind. Among New York Democrats, Ocasio-Cortez's net favorability was a significant 30 points higher than Schumer's. That confirms the result. We don't need to keep going to the polls. To be sure, Schumer is not up for re-election until the year 2028, when he will be weeks shy of his 78th birthday. Whether he risks a primary challenge, which he'd likely lose, or decides to retire, the result is the same: the end of Chuck Schumer. In many ways, that sets Schumer up as a lame duck minority leader, at the exact moment Democrats find themselves at a crossroad. Devoid of a true leader, likely to retake the House but remain a minority in the Senate, and struggling with historically low popularity, Democrats would benefit from a strong, steady voice in Congress's upper chamber. Instead, unless there is an intra-party coup, Schumer will be an ineffective leader, unable to corral fellow Democrat senators in order to mount any semblance of opposition. However, if the House does not break for Democrats, Schumer's relevancy will fall even lower, as neither Democrats nor Republicans respect his ability to command his party in the Senate. Regardless of how or when it comes, Schumer's demise is largely a consequence of his own action. Having failed to adapt to the growing power of his party's left flank, Schumer repeatedly tried pleasing both wings of the party, moderates and progressives, yet often ending up with nobody happy and everybody angry. And what that signals is you better be willing to go far left. You better become a part of this resistance if you want to keep your leadership position. And in this case, it's too late for Chuck Schumer. Case in point is how he handled the war between Israel and Hamas, as anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment surged within his own party. Remember, that's coming from a Democrat. Anti-Semitism and anti-Israel policy in his own party, the Democrat Party. Attempting to reconcile his career-long support for Israel and American Jews, by spring of 2024, shortly after he published a book on anti-Semitism, Schumer took to the Senate to demand that Israel's democratically elected Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu be deposed. That alienated a significant number of his Jewish constituents, coming as it did in the middle of a war forced upon Israel, but also scored no points with progressives who continued criticizing his leadership. And that's one thing that's really interesting about progressives, because, and we're seeing it with Mamdani right now with the demands that he's putting on Hochul. With the Democrat Socialists of America and the far left, there is no 99%. There's only 100%. But this embodies the factor behind Schumer's downfall. Facing an increasingly powerful and aggressive left wing, the old school Democrat stood no chance. Determined to hold on to the power he took when Senator Harry Reid stepped down, every time he placated the left, he lost standing with moderates who make up the majority of the Senate caucus. Conversely, when he was pragmatic and led from the middle, he came under attack from progressives who knew he was extremely malleable and could cave to their demands. Ultimately, whether or not Schumer lasts as leader until 2028 or is taken down by fellow Democrats, his time has almost certainly come to an end. When a longtime senator is reviled by both wings of his party, the message is loud and clear. Had Schumer been more focused on delivering Democrat priorities and not merely trying to appease his left flank, perhaps the end of his career would have been more noble than the political beating he now faces. Ooh. That, coming from a Democrat at the Hill, is the end of Chuck Schumer here. All right, when we come back, a couple things here about Epstein. Then we're going to get into New York issues in the 7 o'clock hour. Stay with us. We will be, maybe, right back.
Your tap water is delicious. I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system. What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
An Albany buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
Sometimes, one moment changes everything. When a wish is granted, a child with a critical illness replaces fear with confidence, sadness with joy, and anxiety with hope. You can transform lives one wish at a time. Support Make-A-Wish and help grant more life-changing wishes. Learn more at wish.org.
Everyone has a community, a neighborhood, school, place of worship, or other chosen groups. Communities can provide support when you need it, including helping your kids avoid underage drinking and other substance use. Learn more at talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer that Senator Eric Schmidt said there should be no more delays. Judge Boasberg must be suspended immediately. Impeachment is underway. He should not get to hear another case. This afternoon, I led the effort to make that suspension happen. So that's from Senator Eric Schmidt. Thank you for that. Okay, House Republicans are set to vote nearly unanimously today for the release of the Epstein files. That's according to the New York Post. GOP aides said the vote to force the Department of Justice to hand over all the federal government's unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials on the late powerful pedophile Epstein was a foregone conclusion after Trump urged House lawmakers to do it because we have nothing to hide. Once the measure is passed in the House, Senate Republicans will have to vote on it, and there's already reportedly enough support for it there, too. Trump said Monday he would immediately sign it afterwards because the media started speculating, would he sign it? He says if it passes the Senate, he will sign the resolution releasing the Epstein file. Trump said, let the Senate look at it, let anybody look at it. The president has always been committed to transparency and accountability when it comes to the Epstein files and delivered on it by having his administration fully cooperate with the House Oversight Committee's production of tens of thousands of investigative materials. That's according to a White House official. The only reason Democrats care about this is because they think they can use this against the president and the administration. Nobody cared about Jeffrey Epstein when he was alive, and if the Democrats had anything, they would have released it before a landslide election victory, Trump said on Truth Social. Some members of the Republican Party are being used, and we can't let that happen. Let's start talking about the Republican Party's record-setting achievements and not fall into the Epstein trap, which is actually a curse on the Democrats, not us. Make America great again. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, introduced by Representative Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, would order Attorney General Pam Bondi in 15 days to send Congress reports on all categories of records released and withheld, a list of government officials and politically exposed persons referenced in the files, and an explanation for any redactions by the feds. No names can be redacted for reasons of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, according to the text of the House resolution, though victims' privacies must be protected. It's going to be interesting because they're already starting the conspiracy theories on the left. I saw in some of my show prep this morning because someone made an offhand, flippant remark saying, oh, we're just going to show you the Democrats, not the Republicans. Well, now they're saying that there's going to be, Trump's name is going to be redacted in all instances. House Majority Whip Tom Emmer has tentatively scheduled a vote on the resolution today after the White House worked the phones last week in anticipation of the so-called discharge petition receiving the 218 signatures. All right, there we go. We're going to tell you a little bit more about this just quickly because in the next hour, we really have to focus on New York State issues, and then we have some other issues to get to as well. So our number one, can you believe it? Our number one is in the books. Our number two, mere moments away. As I mentioned on tomorrow's broadcast, we are going to talk with Pam Walker. She is Corning Mayor-elect. We'll be talking with her on tomorrow's broadcast. Also tomorrow, unrelated to the program, but it is the Red Kettle Kickoff for the Salvation Army, and that will be held in Centerway from 12 to 2. You can get, I think, coffee and donuts, or maybe it's hot chocolate and donuts. Stop over. Maybe if you're working in the Corning area, say hi. Drop a little money in the kettle. All right. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
For cramps and spasms, what's your move? The Hercules? Make the move to TheraWorks for fast muscle relief. Safe, gentle, and absorbs quickly for relief.
TheraWorks works.
Try TheraWorks and get back at it.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Market Street in Corning. So glad that you've joined us. We're going to wrap up our discussion on Epstein here quickly because we have a lot of New York State issues to get to, and I hope that you'll be a part of it. If you're new to the show, you can text or call that number on the bottom of the screen at any time. I just realized, is my weather not playing this morning? We'll have to restart that. I apologize. Okay. Jasmine Crockett. Yes, you're getting 2 Jasmine Crockett quotes in one show. Today is your lucky day. She said Speaker Johnson was full of blank for his comment on the Epstein files vote. Johnson had said, we wanted to ensure that victims of these heinous crimes are completely protected from disclosure. Those who don't want their names to be out there. And I'm not sure that this charge does that, and that's part of the problem. Crockett said, I would cuss, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to say he's full of it, number one. I'm not going to, as Tapper encouraged her to swear. I am not going to say that he is full. Okay, I'm going to do it. What is with this back and forth game? Then she says it. Because here's the thing. Number one, we know that he didn't even bring the House back in because he was trying to avoid us dealing with Epstein. In fact, he would not even swear in a duly elected, now new member of Congress, depriving and having to be sued by her state and others because they literally did not have any representation. He violated the Constitution to avoid this. So miss me on pretending that this is about the victims. That must be kind of a slang. So miss me on pretending that this is about the victims. Now, did you see Harvard's Larry Summers, ex-Treasury Secretary and a Harvard professor, Larry Summers, announced yesterday that he's going to step back from public commitments amid the fallout from the release of emails between him and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the former Clinton and Obama administration official had exchanged emails and text messages when the disgraced financier went after his 2008 guilty plea, in Florida for sex crimes, and up until Epstein's July 2019 arrest on federal child sex trafficking charges. This was the actual release that was released by the Republicans. Remember, Democrats did, 3 selective emails, but the Republicans released a trove of information. Summers said, I'm deeply ashamed of my actions and recognize the pain they have caused. I take full responsibility for my misguided decision to continue communicating with Epstein. So think about that. Larry Summers lectures us very often on cable TV, former Clinton and Obama administration official, continued to talk to Epstein. It wasn't as if he wasn't already pleading guilty in Florida for sex crimes. He stayed friends with him all the way up till Epstein's arrest in July of 2019. Summers explained that stepping away is one part of my broader effort to rebuild trust and repair relationships with the people closest to me. He did say he would continue to fulfill his teaching obligation at Harvard. Aside from I wonder what those classes would be like if the students protest. Summer and Epstein appeared to have had a close relationship and discussed women, politics, and Harvard-related business in hundreds of email exchanges between 2013 and 2019. In one missive, Summers joked that women were less intelligent than men. Former Clinton, former Obama administration official. Quote, I observed that half the IQ in the world was possessed by women, without mentioning they are more than 51% of population. In another online back and forth in March of 2019, Summers asked Epstein for romantic advice. We're not going to get into all that. This is where it gets a little cringy. Summers also asked Epstein, asking, do the Russians have stuff on Trump? Today was appalling, even by his standards. Summers even asked Epstein if Trump was a cocaine user a month before the president defeated Hillary Clinton. That was a common conspiracy theory out there during the debates, that Trump was using cocaine. That was on the far left conspiracy theories I remember people talking about at the time. Now, CNN believes the prospect of an embarrassing defeat is what convinced Trump to reverse course on Epstein. Trump threw his support behind a congressional effort to release all the files of Epstein after it became clear that he could not halt its momentum and that he risked suffering an embarrassing blow on the House floor. The stark reality, which was conveyed to Trump by allies and advisors in recent days, drove the president's abrupt reversal Sunday evening and his comments Monday that he'll sign the measure if it comes to his desk. It's a decision he came to reluctantly, but one that is now likely to clear the way for the measure's overwhelming passage in the House on Tuesday and for the Senate to take it up after that. Sure I would, Trump said. Anyway, I don't want to get to what CNN had to say, but this is one thing, and then we're going to get to New York State issues, I promise. We got an update, too, on Linda Sun, the former advisor or former member of the Hochul administration, for lack of a better term, who is being charged with being a Chinese mole, I guess would be the word, or an agent. But before that, Rich Lowry, about Epstein, he writes, "It's not what you know, it's who you know, even if you may have committed terrible crimes." That was Jeffrey Epstein's version of the famous line about success in business. The massive tranche of emails from Epstein, released by the House Oversight Committee, didn't reveal any smoking guns about Donald Trump, but did highlight a vast conspiracy to help the disgraced financier thrive despite his guilty plea to sex charges involving a minor in 2008. This conspiracy wasn't the work of the deep state or Israel or whatever. No, it was more pedestrian and worse than that. A wide-ranging element of the American elite at the time embraced Epstein as one of its own, thanks to his wealth and his connections. The conservative thinker Russell Kirk once quipped of conspiracy theories about Dwight Eisenhower, the Ike wasn't a communist, he was a golfer. In a similar vein, Jeffrey Epstein wasn't a Mossad agent, he was a networker. The implausible populist narrative about the Epstein case is that the government at all levels and up to today has protected him and others who participated in his crimes because too many powerful people have too much at stake, or because it's too dangerous to reveal Israel's role in the scandal, or both. Perhaps these interpretations will gain more factual support as more is revealed, but it seems unlikely. Regardless, populists have a different narrative at hand that is unquestionably vindicated by the record. Namely, that some of the most privileged members of our society, at the very top of the financial, academic, political, media, and social worlds, had no standards or ethics and embraced Epstein as a friend. Epstein knew influential people, so influential people felt that they should know him. They considered him fun and useful for advice, for banter, for introductions, for information, and for donations. The email suggests that Epstein missed his calling as a high-level, seamy advice columnist to the rich and powerful. Want to know more about the reputation of the women you are having an affair with? Seeking advice on how to gain political influence in Europe? Wondering how you handled an interaction with a woman you are dating? Looking for insights about Donald Trump? Trying to survive sexual harassment allegations? Need a reference for a doctor? Well, then ask Jeffrey Epstein. He emailed with former Harvard President Larry Summers, the linguist Noam Chomsky, venture capitalist Boris Nikolic, Sultan Ahmad bin Salam, Steve Bannon, that's interesting, Michael Wolff, the list goes on and on. It's not as though Epstein was particularly insightful, but if he knew so many important people, he must know something, right? As for his scrape of the law, clearly that had been forgotten and forgiven. If he was in good graces of the social wrangler, Peggy Siegel, whose job was to get bold-faced names to accept invitations, he must be okay. For some of Epstein's correspondence, it was part of his appeal that he was disreputable. Epstein's social currency is one reason that he got off so easy the first time he was prosecuted on sex charges. He hired the best, most connected defense attorneys who intimidated his prosecutors. As for Donald Trump, he is guilty of enjoying Epstein's company a couple of decades ago, presumably for the same reasons so many others did. But there was a rupture in the relationship. Trump didn't have anything to do with Epstein at the time, and so many others in these emails were socializing with him and confiding with him, meaning Epstein, long after Trump ended that friendship. That's a scandal. It's always been in plain sight. In the Epstein story, it's not so much follow the money, although that's important and still mysterious, but follow the social network. I thought that was a kind of a good piece by Rich Lowry. Again, it all boils down to when we get the information. If there was something in here that could destroy Trump, you're telling me they wouldn't have done it already. They think that they've got a morsel here by demanding that he release these files because it's very reminiscent of Russia. But when we come back, we've got updates on New York. You guys are a little quiet this morning. What's going on? Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Some people who need Social Security disability benefits go to their hearing alone and get turned down. Not every lawyer will appeal a denial after your hearing. I will. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. I help people win benefits by appealing their denials, including in federal court. But your time to appeal is limited, so call my office now.
Lockman & Gordon, 1-800-698-0567.
An Albany buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
Lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
Ready, go. Dribble, dribble, dribble. Keep your head up, head up.
Just 2 blistering sunburns as a child doubles your risk of melanoma later in life.
Wait! I forgot to put sunscreen on. Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Extend the fun. Cover up in the midday sun.
And go. Dribble, dribble, dribble. Keep your head up, head up.
In a few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and 5:30 on Big Fox.
Your Big Fox. WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. All right, New York updates. And this is one that we've been following closely. There just has not been a lot of updates, but we have a new one. Alleged Chinese spy or mole, Linda Sun. She worked for both the Hochul and Cuomo administration. She was high up in the Hochul administration. See, she brazenly forged then Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul's signature in glowing missives sent to dignitaries from the Henan province, according to the feds and documents presented at her bombshell trial. Jurors in Brooklyn federal court were shown copies of letters purportedly sent by Hochul on March 26, 2018, inviting a 6-member delegation from the province in central China to a meeting with then-Governor Andrew Cuomo. But the letters bore clearly forged versions of Hochul's signature that featured overly loopy handwriting. Her former chief of staff, Jeff Lewis, testified. I'm sure a little bit of this is trying to cover their you-know-whats in all of this. From my experience, this is not how she would sign her name, Lewis told jurors. The K is different than it typically would be, and I don't have another word for it, but there seems to be an overly loopy or bubbled nature to the handwriting. The letter suggested that members of the delegation could expect discussion about promoting greater investment, trade cooperation, and tourism opportunities with the Empire State. Prosecutors say the Sun, who served as Cuomo's director of Asian American Affairs, forged the governor's then number 2 Hochul's signature several times that year in an attempt to curry favor with Chinese officials. Over the same time span, Sun's alleged handlers in Beijing showered her family with gaudy gifts and steered millions of dollars in contracts to her husband Chris Hughes' seafood exporting business, according to the feds. I always wonder who gets to define the gifts as gaudy. Like, what were they, I wonder? I'm just curious. In exchange, Sun, who also worked as a top aide to Hochul when she succeeded Cuomo as governor, attempted to advance China's agenda in New York State. Her loyalty was for sale, and the Chinese government, which wanted to influence the New York government, was willing to pay her to do their bidding, said prosecutor Amanda Shammy. Sun and Hugh are separately charged with taking illegal kickbacks from a PPE company run by Sun's cousin in exchange for recommending that the state dole out millions in contracts to the firm in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. Jurors on Monday saw evidence of the alleged spoils from the purportedly crooked schemes at Sun's parents' home in Flushing, Queens, and at the $4 million Long Island mansion that the married couple shared at the time of their arrest last year. A special agent from the FBI's New York field office testified that he found a pearl necklace at Sun's parents' home tucked into a jewelry box that also contained the business card of a Chinese government official. Jurors also got a glimpse of a Rolex watch that the feds recovered from the parents' home. What else? Prosecutors are expected to reveal more about the alleged fruits of the scheme, including that Sun's family received several fancy salted ducks prepared by the personal chef of a Chinese consulate official. Hochul, not Cuomo, ended up meeting with the Henan province delegation herself in June of 2018. The meeting only lasted a few minutes, but Hochul posed for a photo with the Chinese dignitaries. Sun, who had set up the meeting, was anxious after Lewis threatened to cancel the sit-down because Hochul had not taken adequate time to prepare to discuss the issues the delegation wanted to speak out about. Sun's often alleged acts on behalf of China included Sun's other alleged acts on behalf of China included secretly placing a consulate official on a private phone call in 2020, where New York state officials discussed the response to the mushrooming pandemic. She also allegedly used her position of power to sway Cuomo and Hochul to not meet with officials from the communist nation's rival, Taiwan, and once allegedly stopped Cuomo from publicly thanking the island nation. Sun had risen the ranks to become a deputy chief in the executive chamber before she was fired in March of 2023 after the administration uncovered misconduct that reported to law enforcement. The trial is expected to last around 3 more weeks, and future testimony from various state officials and experts on China-U.S. relations. The feds also revealed late Monday that they plan to call Sun's mother as a prosecution witness over the objections of Sun's attorney. Sun's mom is expected to take the stand sometime today after the trial resumes with testimony from a New York State expert on ethics rules. Sun has pled not guilty for failing to register as a Chinese agent and other charges, while Hu has denied charges of federal program bribery, money laundering, and fraud. Sun's lawyer, Jared Schaefer, has argued that the alleged Chinese agent was in fact a dedicated public servant. The evidence will show that Linda was working on behalf of New Yorkers. This New Yorker was working for New York. Schaefer acknowledged that Sun received gifts and steered New York leaders away from politically touchy topics like Taiwan, but she did not need to register as an agent of China because she never was one. He argued, isn't that just politics? So there you go. There's your update. I know people ask me about updates on that quite often. Well, there you go. There's a new bit of information. Well, I see that speaking of New York, and we got quite a few New York issues here. New York officials are teaming up with Wall Street to keep the National Guard out, according to the Wall Street Journal. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani has drawn the ire of President Trump as New York state officials and Wall Street executives are teaming up to avoid a federal takeover of New York City, hoping to make the case to President Trump that a surge in law enforcement would be bad for business. Kathy Hochul's administration has been mapping out a way to protect New York from National Guard deployments and increased immigration enforcement that Trump has ordered for other U.S. cities. The effort comes at a critical moment for New York City, whose newly elected mayor, Democrat Socialist Zohran Mamdani, has drawn Trump's ire. New York officials aim to follow the playbook that San Francisco successfully used last month to keep out the National Guard troops. Silicon Valley chief executives, as well as San Francisco mayor, texted and called Trump to warn him that a deployment would hurt local businesses and have a ripple effect on the national economy. At the time, Trump wrote on social media that the federal government was preparing to surge San Francisco, but friends of mine who live in the area called last night to ask me not to go forward with the surge. So now they're working behind the scenes, Wall Street, New York officials, to keep the National Guard out. Isn't that interesting that Zohran Mamdani working with Wall Street? Could be the last time. We know that yesterday was reported that Trump is going to meet with Zohran Mamdani a little bit later on. I'm not sure when that is going to happen. Okay, we do have to take a short break. We've got a lot more here. Bruce Blakeman is still making the rounds. Your thoughts on this? I know a lot of people are not very happy with Bruce Blakeman. If you're not familiar with him, he is exploring a run for governor. Now, we know that Elise Stefanik has already announced, and she is the clear front runner. She's the clear favorite. But for whatever reason, Bruce Blakeman, after winning Nassau County Executive, decided that now he's going to explore, even though he had all this time to do it when Stefanik hadn't announced. And now he's telling the voters to put their support behind him in the November elections, that never mind, I didn't want this job, I want to be governor now. I don't think that's a good look. But he is out there, and he has some points to make that I think we have to mention, but your thoughts on that. Also, we heard yesterday, and I've got some other examples of this, but threats by the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, that, hey, Governor Hochul, if you don't give in to Zohran Mamdani 100%, not 99, not 99.9, 100%, you will be, if not primaried, you will be worked against in the general and primary election. I think they'll probably end up being a primary challenger. Now, whether it's a viable primary challenger, that is yet to be seen. But again, it does take time and money no matter what the primary challenge. That's why we have hoped Bruce Blakeman would step aside and let Stefanik run. But again, time will tell on that. So there we are. As I get on a little bit of a tangent, keep those waves, keep those comments coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
William Mattar has earned a reputation for being a straight shooter.
Because I am a straight shooter.
For being honest.
Here's what we're willing to pay.
Because I am honest.
For winning a lot.
Because we win a lot.
If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, it matters who you hire. It matters in the experience as well as the results. Call William Mattar. Visit WilliamMattar.com.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Want to read about ancient wonders? Go to your local library today. But this isn't your father's library. It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer or face off a dragon in the D&D club. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine riddles. Create with the 3D printer or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
Hospitals have doctors and nurses. We have mom and dad. Because at Ronald McDonald House Charities, we help families feel at home, even when they can't be.
It's Monday again, but I love this job. It was hard to get though. No one gave me a chance.
I found a problem, it fixed.
Perfect. Thank you, Joshua.
Aren't you glad we hired him?
Yes, I am.
Don't underestimate people with disabilities. Visit thearc.org/yes to see what's possible.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to a viewer comment. The Epstein files were in the left's hands for 4 years. I'm sure they have already been redacted enough to not hurt the left and edited to make Trump look bad. Well, that's a fair point. Thank you very much. We'll be keeping an eye on that as that is set to be voted on for the release today. We're talking about New York State issues. We've all heard of these rallies against Trump. They've been happening, at least in the summer, it seemed like every weekend. The No Kings rally. Well, in New York, there was recently a No Queens protest that was specifically protesting Governor Hochul's administration and what they call the affordability crisis. A large group of New Yorkers protested outside Governor Kathy Hochul's Manhattan office today under the banner No Queens, calling on state lawmakers to take urgent action to make New York affordable again. The protest, organized by the New York Communities for Change, highlighted the state's growing affordability crisis, driven by skyrocketing costs of housing, food, transportation, and insurance. Kathy Hochul's in a very interesting position because she has those on the left threatening her and some of the more moderate, and I don't like using that term, but we'll say it, moderate Democrats that don't like the direction she is headed. Now, what's interesting is there's so many Democrats that are scared of a primary challenge from Democrat Socialists of America candidates that they are willing to, quote unquote, talk about raising the taxes on the rich or talk about some of these radical ideas that Mamdani won. But again, you've got to remember, and this is why politics, sometimes people are so scaredy cats. They make these horrible, Hochul did it, made a horrible decision, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but by endorsing Mamdani. Because at the end of the day, he got barely 50% of the vote in a three-way race. Now, I'm not saying that's not a significant number of votes. He won. He's going to be mayor. But at the scheme of the overall state, but I'll continue with what this protest, the No Queens protest, was all about. NYCC also released its new affordability survey revealing the scale of financial strain facing households statewide. According to the survey of 700 members, 80% said they are extremely concerned about paying their bills, while 74% reported struggling to afford basic needs such as rent and groceries. Olivia Learler said New York's affordability crisis has reached a breaking point. From rent and food to utilities and now skyrocketing car and home insurance, every basic cost is rising while wages stay flat. Working class New Yorkers are being priced out of their own state. This is not just an economic issue, it's a moral failure and a policy failure. Albany must act now to make New York affordable again. While housing remains a top concern for 87% of respondents, the survey identifies a fast-growing number of household strains, soaring car and home insurance premiums. 73% responded who own or pay for car insurance said they are concerned about rising premiums, and 70% of homeowners expressed concern about escalating home insurance costs. At the No Queens protest, NYCC members and supporters held signs and chanted outside Hochul's Midtown office, demanding the governor stop ignoring New York's working class and deliver concrete relief for renters, homeowners, and drivers. The event underscored the urgent need for bold affordability reforms in the upcoming legislative session, including stronger tenant protections, oversight of the insurance industry, and action to rein in costs across all sectors. So the No Queens rally against Governor Hochul. Now, I mentioned Bruce Blakeman. There is a lot of skepticism of Bruce Blakeman. No one is quite understanding his goal here. Here's a man who just won Nassau County Executive and then tells the voters and supporters, hey, you know how you supported me and you wanted me to do this job? I don't want it anymore. I want to look at governor. And then he could have done this if he wanted to, well before Stefanik announced, because Stefanik announced in many of our ideas, many of our views, a little bit later than we had hoped. So to do this just to hurt the Republican Party, just to hurt Stefanik, if he ultimately does try to do a primary, it will have serious damage. And I think if we do not win the governor's mansion as Republicans, I think that if he does, the blame can be fully put on Mr. Blakeman. That's where I stand on it. But Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman challenged Hochul to draw a line in the sand Monday as she faces pressure from Democrat Socialists of America to back Mamdani's proposed tax hikes. This is the same reason, though, that she endorsed him, even though he would not endorse her. She is scared of an opponent from the far left, and I don't think there's anything she can do to avoid that. Now, it's whether or not it's a viable far left candidate or not, which would be the point. Blakeman, who is considering a run against Hochul in the gubernatorial election next year, argued that raising taxes could drive corporations out of the Empire State and potentially increase costs for consumers and small businesses. Quote, this is bad for Nassau County, this is bad for Long Island, this is bad for the metropolitan region, and this is bad for New York State. We're going to fight very hard against it, Blakeman said. New York is already the highest tax state in the United States. The recently re-elected Republican county executive was joined by officials and business leaders in the city's neighboring suburbs to demand Hochul stop any consideration she may be giving to Mamdani's plan. The Democrat Socialist has pushed for a 2% tax surge on millionaires, and he also wants to hike the corporate tax rate from 7.5% to 11.5% to match the Garden State. Mamdani's DSA allies, empowered and gaining mainstream influence, have turned up the heat on Hochul, confronting her with tax the rich chants at recent appearances, making that veiled threat that she better support all of Mamdani's proposals or she will have a problem in the future. Hochul has reportedly signaled some openness to hiking the corporate tax rate because she's scared. She always was firmly against it. But again, we had that piece yesterday that I think was so spot on, that her position changes whichever way the wind blows because she's always looking out for herself, but she's always a few steps behind. She's not playing chess, so to speak. I know that's overused. She's playing checkers while others are playing chess. She is always just a little behind. So she paints herself in the corner, just like the endorsement of Mamdani, just like this, okay, I'm not for taxing the rich. Okay, I guess now I am. It makes her very often come off looking weak and pathetic. Bruce Blakeman, said Monday he's worried such tax increases would be trickled down to shoppers in the form of price hikes. Quote, we are very concerned that this will drive more jobs out of New York State, and this will drive more businesses out of New York State, and this will drive more residents out of New York State. A Long Island business making $5 million per year, the income needed to be considered a corporation in the state, pays about $362,500 in corporate taxes currently. Wow. Under Mamdani's proposal, businesses making the same baseline would see a hike of roughly $212,500 in corporate taxes per year. That's on a business of $5 million. I don't want to get into all the specifics here. I don't really want to give Bruce Blakeman too much publicity quite yet. But the DSA is demanding that Hochul back the policies of Mamdani, whom she endorsed in the mayoral race, or be voted out by a candidate who will win the Democrat primary for governor next summer. So what they're saying is, okay, if you don't give in 100%, we are going to challenge you. I've got news for her. If she gives in 100%, she'll still have a challenger. I mean, that's why I think she doesn't realize who she's dealing with. If you've never seen how the far-left progressives work, it is not a 99.9%, oh, great. It's 100% adherence. And we've seen it with cultural issues in the past, because they're the same groups that kind of push this woke culture, or whatever you want to call it, that it was giving in to them 100%. And that's what Hochul will need to do if she doesn't want to challenge her. But even then, I think she'll have a DSA challenger. That is my prediction. Hochul on Monday stressed that she hasn't reached a decision on the proposed tax hike and is waiting for a clear line of sight on what next year's budget may look like, given the city's deficit and threats from President Trump to halt federal funding. It's November. January, we'll have at least a clear view of what we're in for the next season and the next year. So I'm going to be not intentionally vague, but I have to be vague because we don't have all the information. That is Governor Hochul. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about Hochul and a little bit more about her endorsement of Mamdani. Okay, full disclosure, full warning, folks. It seems as if this section of the street is getting the Christmas light treatment. I know we had it last week on the other side of the street. Now it's this side of the street. It is a little bit further down, but you may hear a beeping in the background. I heard it in my sleep last night because I heard it all day yesterday. But if you hear that beeping in the background, that is because they are putting up the Christmas lights on Market Street. So it's not your, well, I don't want to check your fire alarms. You should always check your smoke detectors. But that beep is most likely due to the Christmas lights going up, and I apologize for that. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Want to help people in disaster? They need cash. Cash is fast. Cash is international. Cash is flexible to help with their needs. Cash is best. Donate cash today.
Possibilities are all around us. Everywhere we look, we see opportunity in unexpected places. And when we share our knowledge, vision, and connections, we turn great ideas into action in communities all around the world that we call home. Like transforming an old bus to feed hungry children, or providing life-saving equipment to those who need it most. From fighting disease to rebuilding schools, together we can make real change happen. We're Rotary. We are people of action. Get involved today at Rotary.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. A political earthquake is shaking New York. A new JL Partners poll shows the 2026 governor's race between Republican Elise Stefanik and Democrat Kathy Hochul in a statistical tie. Hochul's approval has collapsed. 54% of voters now disapprove, and 55% say it's time for someone new. Stefanik's message on crime, taxes, and New York's decline is resonating, backed by major GOP leaders across the state. As voters flee Hochul's failed leadership, even deep blue New York is turning red. If momentum continues, Stefanik could deliver a historic conservative comeback in 2026, and Democrats should be terrified. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Forgive my suspicious mind that I have to wonder if Blakeman is somehow connected to the Democrats and might run as an independent in order to pull votes away from Elise. It's a question I think that's fair to ask right now about what he think about an independent run. I mean, I don't know what is going on there. He had plenty of time. Now, the argument could be, well, he was running for executive. Well, why were you running for executive if you wanted to be governor so bad? I mean, the whole thing reeks of something. I don't know what that is, but is not a good look, in my opinion. Coming from a different viewer, Mark writes in, no Queens protest agents, no Queens protest against Hochul. That's great. And a feather in Elise Stefanik's cap, I would agree. And Ken writes in, it's great that at least some in the Republican Party are still willing to protest. I'm sure there is more danger to the No Queens protesters than there is to protesters to the No Kings protest. Yes, I misunderstood what you're saying at first. Absolutely. That may not be a safe place to use their term, safe space, if you are at a No Queens rally. But they named it incorrectly. They should have called it the No Puppet Protest. Oh, I like it. That's got a good sound to it. Okay, the New York Post editorial board says Governor Kathy Hochul thought that endorsing Mamdani would win over his supporters. Instead, as was predicted here on Frankly Speaking, they're now threatening to oust her if she doesn't cave to their demands. I think the clear announcement of this is when Zohran Mamdani would not endorse her twice. One during the debate that was very glaring, the optics on it will be used in the future by Stefanik, that he would not endorse her. Why? Because according to Hochul, he was waiting on Hochul's timeline, that he's waiting for her campaign to say, okay, now we want the endorsement. We knew that was a joke all along. We know that he was just protecting himself if and most likely when there was a DSA, Democrat Socialist America candidate that primaried Hochul. So think of that embarrassment that she will eventually most likely have, which is she was full-throated endorsing Mamdani to quote-unquote help him win, going against some experts. She did it. And now we could see him endorse somebody else. How embarrassing, but a kind of a typical microcosm of Hochul's time in office, but more specifically time in politics. I'll continue what the Post had to say. If Hochul blocks tax hikes on the rich to fund universal child care, warned State Senator Jabier Brisport at a Tax the Rich rally Sunday, she has to go. Brisport complains she's shot down such plans twice before. If you get a third strike, you're out, he threatened. Another Tax the Rich crowd booed Hochul to her face when she took the stage at a Mamdani event with AOC and Bernie Sanders a few weeks ago. Jumping on the Zohran bandwagon has clearly backfired, Governor. The radicals couldn't care less that you endorsed him, and now they're demanding you forswear your repeated vows to not raise taxes, a stand that was to be a key part of your re-election affordability agenda. Now they're demanding differently, and she's painted herself into a corner on this. The governor's in a bind. She must either deliver for Mamdani early in the legislative session, or the hard left will gun for her in the June Democratic primary. We hope she finds her spine because his demands This demand means disaster. I don't think she will. I think she'll kind of continue to try to placate them, and it will not work. Because, again, it's not a 99.9% issue. She has to be 100% in on this, or she will be challenged. No matter how much it costs, no matter how much it'll increase the mass exodus of New York residents, she's worried about herself, and she got herself into this mess. And it has turned out to be such a pathetic place to be, because you will ultimately see the visual of her not being endorsed by Mamdani. The mayor-elect wants the state corporate tax upped to 11.5% from 7.25%. He argues that would just bring New York's rate in line with New Jersey. But he conveniently ignores other taxes New York City companies face, such as the City Business Corporation tax and the payroll tax for the MTA. Those levies bring the actual New York City rate to 18.3% now. Mamdani's hike would push it to nearly 23%, twice the Garden State. How many businesses would be fleeing New York and across the Hudson in that case, or move to Pennsylvania, which is cutting its corporate tax rate in half, or North Carolina, which is scrapping corporate taxes altogether? As incoming partnership for New York City head Stephen Fulop, a Democrat, puts it, Mamdani's hike means absolute suicide for New York City and an absolute dream for New Jersey. That is a Democrat. Back up, Governor, and you know this tax hike would be poison. And the far left is not the deciding factor in statewide elections, not even in a Democratic primary. Suburban voters in the half of Gotham that voted against Mamdani will thank you for denying his insane agenda. Hochul has always aimed to represent the sane center of New York State. Her best bet for winning in June and November is to stick with the brands that are already won for her. Now that the hard left has shown its true colors, she should hold her own flag high. But she's so terrified. She believes that Mamdani is some type of bellwether. She's so terrified of getting challenged by a far left primary challenge, because she's already going to have a tough race ahead if it's Elise Stefanik. I hate to have to say if now, but with it, whatever Bruce Blakeman's doing, which we still don't quite understand. I'm going to give you some more examples of a little bit more about Mamdani, but about the Democrat Socialists of America as well. We have some other issues we need to get to, kind of quick things to breeze through because we're almost out of time. As I mentioned on tomorrow's program, we're going to be talking with Corning Mayor-elect Pam Walker. If you have any questions for her, get those in ahead of time if you wouldn't mind. Send them to me now. She's going to be on the program tomorrow. Also, I got an announcement, and a couple weeks ago, we had on Greg Tranter, and he told us about some of the books he's written about the Buffalo Bills. He's a Buffalo Bills super fan, and I'm not saying that, and like some people throw that around, and it's because they've been to a couple games. What was he have? Every ticket stub and every program from every game the Bills ever played, home or away. I mean, his collection, which he donated to the Buffalo Museum, is just amazing. I've been reading his book. I think it's called, was it Relics? I should know that off the top of my head. But just amazing how big of a fan he is. But he found another pet project, and I understand this well because I have been involved in one of these as well when it comes to historic markers. Well, on Thursday, the 21st, City of Elmira Mayor Dan Mandel will be joining Greg Tranter, friend, frankly speaking, and sports historian for the unveiling of a new historic marker at Dunn Field. So 103 years ago, on November 21st, the exact day of the unveiling, 1902, the first ever game of professional football was played after dark at what was Maple Avenue Driving Park, now known as Dunn Field. In 1902, Maple Avenue Driving Park included a stadium for horse racing, bicycle racing, baseball, and a football field in the center. The historic first night game featured a local team. I'm going to try here, the Kanawha Athletic Club against the Philadelphia Athletics, which was a Major League Baseball team playing football in the offseason. So the community is invited to join them. Again, it's this Thursday, November 21st at 11:30 a.m. at Dunn Field, where the new historical marker will join alongside the historic Dunn Field plaque. Greg Tranter, who was on the program not that long ago, you can find that on YouTube or you can find that on WYDCTV.com, said, "This is a terrific untold Elmira story. The city was way ahead of its time. The NFL was still almost 2 decades away from being founded. And then it took the league another 50 years before it began to embrace night football. And once it did, professional football was transformed into the #1 spectator sport in the country, and it all started here." in Elmira. So we look forward to that. Again, mark your calendars. I know many of you will be interested in attending that at Dunn Field. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
This is Jim from Famous Brands. We are ready for fall and loaded with all of your favorite brands. Great new deals are arriving every week. We have the largest selection of clothing and footwear in the Finger Lakes, all at below retail prices. Famous Brands, downtown, Watkins Glen, where you're always looking good for less.
In the nature, collisions happen when you least expect them. Deer hits can turn a tranquil drive into a chaotic moment. When the unexpected happens, turn to Scott's Collision. At Scott's Collision, we understand the frustration of unexpected encounters with wildlife. From dents to more extensive damage, we've got you covered. When nature and your vehicle collide, trust Scott's Collision to bring it back to life.
An albino buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
The free They Hear You mobile app and Screen for Success tool can help you turn everyday situations into opportunities to talk with your kids about alcohol and other drugs and identify if they need more support. Download the app today and keep your kids safe and healthy.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. We've got quite a few comments coming in here. Let's get to it. Rick writes in a lengthy one here. Rick says, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. Why does Trump drag a congresswoman up to the White House to try to talk her into voting no on the Epstein files? What are you hiding down? I'm confused by that one because he came out, the other day and said he wanted the vote on it. He wanted Republicans to vote it. So what are you saying? How can you guys possibly support someone like Trump? This is sad. And then there's Maxwell, some old, sneaky, lying, underhanded Trump actions. He says he doesn't know how Maxwell ended up in a minimum security facility. I'll talk with the DOJ. I haven't heard. I'll find out. He says this baloney with a straight face. Lindsay Halligan, one of Donald's angels, will be dismissed as lead prosecutor, and charges against Comey and James will be dropped. I think she was the only person on the East Coast that would take the case. That's what getting desperate will get you, Trump. Trump ordered the Justice Department to start investigating prominent Democrats and leave out the Republicans in the Epstein mess. We already know Clinton is a dog, just like Trump. Bondi is a puppet, just like the rest of Donald's angels. Then he turns up the heat on invading Argentina. What a desperate, weak old man. Anything to avoid what he is due. Let Argentina run interference. Excuse me, Donald, before you start another war, have you taken a look at Gaza lately? Your bombs help destroy it. In America, if animals live like the Palestinians, the animals would be confiscated for cruelty and the perpetrators would be arrested. Come on, will you? By the way, Trump hasn't stopped 8 wars. Worst week in Trump's second term, desperation. Stay tuned on what he pulls next. Something really stinks. Such a crook. Hope someone honest has an unmodified copy of the Epstein files. Should be quite a week. Mouthful from Rick. Okay, powerful New York Democrat Party Chair Jay Jacobs does not plan on stepping down, even though he dissed, if you will, Zohran Mamdani. He said, I have work to do. I'm staying on. I have no intention of stepping down. This is Jay Jacobs, the longtime state Democratic leader. No one has asked me to step down, he said. Jacobs' intention to remain party chairman is sure to provoke backlash from allies of Mamdani and far-left activists. That's what's interesting because they kind of smell the blood in the water. So what they're doing is they're stopping at nothing, whether it's challenging Hochul, whether now, and I'll get to this in a moment, challenging Hakeem Jeffries, challenging Jay Jacobs, the head of the Democrat Party. They are going for everyone. The singular person with the power to ask Jacobs to relinquish the chair role is Governor Kathy Hochul, the unofficial boss of the state Democrat Party. Jacobs crossed Hochul, who endorsed Mamdani as a nominee after he defeated ex-governor Andrew Cuomo. Cuomo ran as an independent, losing to Mamdani. As you know, Jacobs has been a staunch Hochul ally, at least before their disagreement over the now mayor-elect. He declined to discuss his private conversations with the governor, though it's hard to believe he would say he's remaining as chair without an understanding with Hochul. Jacob also doubles as the Democrat leader in Nassau County, where Republicans won the key races in November, in part by tying their opponents to Mamdani. In a previous interview, Jacobs emphasized that the Democrat Party is a big tent. The party is not just a progressive party, we're a progressive moderate party. Okay. There's a really interesting piece, and I got it at the New York Post today, but it's not from the New York Post. You can find it there under their commentary, and it's by Brendan O'Neill, and he says, Zohran Mamdani and the ugly rebirth of the socialism of fools. The bourgeoisie, is that how you say it? Left's hatred for Israel is underpinned by an ancient hysteria. It's quite an interesting piece, but we have other topics we have to get to because we're getting ready to wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. And I think we have a handful of things I think you're going to find very interesting. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, get your last minute comments in.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
Day one of the National Glider Competition, severe flooding has caused major disruptions in parts of Steuben County.
Throughout the year, prison reform has become a priority around New York State.
Hey, I'm worried about your parents. We need to show them how to spot phishing emails.
Agree, the scammers are out of control.
And we need to show them how to use a password manager. Plus, help them add multi-factor authentication.
Yes, we use MFA at work and it's great. Great cake. I'll use MFA to verify my purchase. Software update? Done. Time to celebrate.
For more information on how to keep yourself and those you care about safe online, go to cisa.gov/secure.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So a New York City council member is preparing to run against Hakeem Jeffries in a Democratic primary. Chi Ose filed paperwork to run in the primary for the House Minority Leader's District. The campaign filing, first reported by Axios and filed yesterday with the Federal Election Commission, notes Ossie is running as a Democrat in New York's Brooklyn-based 8th District, which Jeffries has represented since 2013. Ossie did not immediately respond to a request for comment. That's a bad start to your campaign. He said in a statement to Axios, the Democrat Party's leadership is not only failing to effectively fight back against Donald Trump, they have also failed to deliver a vision that we can all believe in. So this is a direct response to Hakeem Jeffries and what many people have called, and it's not as prevalent in the media as it should be, a failure in leadership. Jeffries said, well, let me take a step back. Ossie also publicly hinted at a run by saying, seems like we're in a dire situation. Jeffries welcomed the challenge, saying Leader Jeffries is fighting hard to lower the high cost of living, address the Republican healthcare crisis, combat corruption, and win back control of the House for the good of the country. We welcome this primary challenge and look forward to a rigorous debate about the type of serious leadership required to deliver for the people of Brooklyn and the nation. AOC, even though it was a more far-left candidate, AOC says it's not a good idea to primary Hakeem Jeffries. She signaled in an interview with Axios that she would not support New York City Council member Chi Ose in a primary challenge against Hakeem Jeffries. Now, that is very important because Ocasio-Cortez is one of several high-profile progressives distancing themselves from OC's potential run, arguing that it is a distraction from New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's win. Progressive Change Campaign Committee head Adam Green said it's not the right moment to launch a primary challenge against Hakeem Jeffries. Mamdani also appeared to discourage his fellow Democrat Socialist of American member on Monday, saying, I believe there are many ways right here in New York City to both deliver on an affordability agenda and take on the authoritarian administration in the White House. AOC said in an interview that she was not aware that OC was challenging Jeffries, but I certainly don't think a primary challenge to the leader is a good idea right now. Comments from viewer. Oh, speaking of AOC, real quick. Bill Maher said AOC would be a fantastic presidential candidate if she had some deprogramming. She would be such a fantastic candidate. She's never going to resonate with people outside the bubble she lives in the very, very far left. So she needs some deprogramming. I mean, the New York Times, of all people, just put a huge editorial basically saying exactly what I've been saying. The only way Democrats will ever win again, now that the Republicans are probably even going to give it back, is to be more moderate. All right, comment from a viewer. Ken writes in, it doesn't take a genius to realize that if there was anything damaging in the Epstein files on Trump, the Dems would have leaked it years ago. If anything is in there now, there has been plenty of time to delete anything about the Dems and add Republican issues to it. Thank you, Ken. Joel Pollack has a piece at the New York Post saying that Gavin Newsom preens in Brazil while California drowns at home. We heard yesterday that you have to accept it now, that Gavin Newsom is the 2028 frontrunner for the Democrats. You would almost think the race was over and that it was guaranteed, so keep that in mind. And also, as we get out the door here, Liz Peek has a piece at Fox News saying why every affordable promise from Democrats ends up costing you more. Democrats say they will make life more affordable for Americans. What a joke, people should ask. If Democrat policies lower costs for Americans, why are the most expensive cities in the U.S. run by Democrats? Anyway, that's a piece. Mike Johnson says Arctic frost provision in spending bill that lets spied-on senators sue for $500,000 will probably be repealed. That's according to Speaker Johnson. We probably will repeal that provision. That bill's already been filed. I had to commit to my members that we would do that. All right, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everyone who joined us this morning for all the comments, all the questions, the waves. On tomorrow's broadcast, we'll be talking with Corning Mayor-elect Pam Walker. She'll be joining us to tell us about her incoming administration. We look forward to talking with Pam Walker. Also, as I mentioned, on tomorrow after the program at noon, the Salvation Army of Corning's Red Kettle campaign kicks off. Yes, it's that time of year. It's essentially Christmas time because the red kettles will start a-ringing. And that'll be tomorrow from noon to 2. So stop by, get free, I think it's hot cocoa and a donut, and say hi to all the hard workers of the Salvation Army of Corning. And join us every weekday morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already.
Dear Friday, let's put good times in gear. We've got power tailgates to power game days and a trailer backup guide that's the champ of the ramp. Heck, we might even cancel Monday. Toyota trucks.
Grab Black Friday savings today. Lease Tacoma for $249 a month or get 2.99% APR on Tundra now until December 1st. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.